You've probably felt it. That strange sensation that reality isn't quite what you've been told, like there's something just beyond your perception waiting to reveal itself. The veil of the universe doesn't lift for everyone at the same time. And here's the controversial truth. You weren't chosen because you're special. You're simply ready because you stopped resisting. Most people spend their entire lives comfortable behind the illusion. But once the veil begins to thin, there's no going back to ignorance, only forward into a reality so profound, it'll shake everything you thought you knew about existence. This awakening isn't about gaining something new. It's about remembering what your soul has always known, but your mind forgot. What you're about to discover will either terrify you into retreat or liberate you into the most authentic version of yourself. Topic 1. The moment reality. Cracks. Open the veil lifts when the soul stops playing along with the illusion, and that moment often arrives disguised as chaos. A sudden loss, an unexplainable feeling, or a pattern that keeps repeating until you finally pay attention. You might be standing in line at the grocery store when suddenly everything feels surreal, like you're watching yourself from outside your body. Or perhaps you wake up at 3 a.m. with an overwhelming knowing that your life has been running on autopilot. This isn't a mental breakdown. It's a breakthrough where consciousness begins piercing through the dense fog of conditioned thinking. Think of it like Neo seeing the Matrix code for the first time, except you're not in a movie, and there's no reset button. The universe doesn't send you a formal invitation with RSVP instructions. Instead, it disrupts your comfortable routines and shatters the beliefs that kept you safely numb. You start questioning everything, your career, your relationships, the very foundation of what society told you matters. And this questioning isn't rebellion. It's your higher self finally getting your attention. People around you might think you're going through a phase, but deep down, you know something fundamental has shifted within your consciousness. The world looks the same on the surface, yet you're seeing through it now, catching glimpses of the energetic undercurrents that move beneath the visible reality. What makes this moment so powerful is that you can't unsee what's been revealed, no matter how much your ego wants to retreat back into comfort. The veil doesn't lift all at once like a curtain at a theater. It thins gradually, offering you glimpses before the full revelation arrives. You're standing at the threshold between two worlds, one of duality, separation and suffering, the other of unity, consciousness, and profound inner peace. The choice isn't whether to step through. The veil is already dissolving, and the only question is whether you'll resist the transformation or surrender to it. Topic 2. The 7 symptoms that signal your awakening. Your body becomes an antenna picking up frequencies you've never noticed before. Sounds feel louder, lights seem brighter, and crowded spaces drain your energy like someone pulled your power cord. This energetic hypersensitivity isn't weakness. It's your nervous system recalibrating to perceive the subtle realms that most people filter out completely. You might walk into a room and immediately sense the emotional atmosphere, or feel physically ill around certain people whose energy clashes with your newly elevated vibration. Start paying attention to these signals. If being in shopping malls exhausts you but sitting near trees revitalizes you, your soul is telling you where true nourishment lives. Sleep patterns shift dramatically during spiritual awakening, and you'll find yourself waking at strange hours with downloads of information flooding your consciousness. Those 3 a.m. wake-up calls aren't insomnia. They're cosmic appointments where your higher self communicates most clearly, because your analytical mind finally shuts up. You might experience vivid dreams that feel more real than waking life, or sudden insights that solve problems you've wrestled with for years. Keep a journal by your bed and write immediately upon waking. These messages from your soul get lost the moment you check your phone or engage in routine thinking. The spiritual isolation hits differently because suddenly you can't engage in superficial conversations without feeling like you're suffocating. Your friends want to discuss the latest Netflix series while you're contemplating the nature of consciousness and the interconnectedness of all existence. This isn't you becoming antisocial. It's your frequency rising above the collective noise, and loneliness becomes the price of authenticity. You'll notice synchronicities multiplying, repeating numbers, chance encounters that feel divinely orchestrated, signs from the universe appearing everywhere once you start paying attention. Instead of dismissing these as coincidence, treat them as breadcrumbs leading you toward your soul's purpose. Topic 3. Understanding the energetic shift within. The energy coursing through your body during awakening can feel like electricity, tingling sensations, or waves of heat that science can't explain with typical diagnosis. Your chakras are opening, energy channels are clearing, and your entire energetic system is upgrading from dial-up to high-speed consciousness connection. Some people experience physical symptoms, headaches, digestive issues, unexplained aches, as the body purges old patterns and trauma stored in cellular memory. Instead of suppressing these sensations with medication, learn to work with them through breathwork, meditation, or energy healing modalities like Reiki. Your relationship with energy shifts from unconscious consumption to conscious cultivation, and you start recognizing how everything carries vibrational frequency. That toxic friend you tolerated for years suddenly feels unbearable because their low-frequency drama now clashes with your elevated state. You become selective about what you watch, read, consume, and who you allow in your energetic field, not from judgment, but from protection of your newly sensitive system. Try this practical exercise. Spend one day noticing how different environments affect your energy, the office versus nature, scrolling social media versus reading spiritual texts, and you'll discover where your soul truly thrives. The universe operates on energetic exchange, and as your awareness expands, you realize you've been giving your power away to systems, people, and beliefs that never deserved it. Your higher self is the direct connection to source energy, that divine spark within that's always been tethered to cosmic intelligence. Most people live entirely from their conditioned ego, but awakening means recognizing that your true identity extends far beyond the personality you've constructed. When you meditate deeply enough, you touch that eternal essence beneath all the mental noise, the consciousness that witnesses your thoughts without being them. Topic 4. The dark night and the breaking. Here's what nobody tells you about spiritual awakening. Before the enlightenment comes the complete dismantling of everything you thought you were. The dark night of the soul isn't depression. It's the ego's death throes as consciousness outgrows the limited identity you've been clutching. You might feel like you're losing your mind when actually you're losing your conditioned mind, and that process feels like dying because part of you genuinely is. This phase separates the spiritual tourists from the genuine seekers. Tourists retreat back to comfort while seekers surrender into the transformation. Everything that felt solid crumbles during this phase. Relationships end, careers lose meaning, belief systems collapse like houses built on sand. The universe isn't punishing you. It's clearing space for the authentic life your soul came here to live. You're being stripped down to your essence because you can't build a new reality on a foundation of false identities and borrowed dreams. Look at this practically. If a job that once fulfilled you now feels soul-crushing, that's not failure. That's your calling evolving, demanding you step into something aligned with your higher purpose. The spiritual path requires confronting your shadow, those parts of yourself you've denied, suppressed, or projected onto others. You can't transcend what you haven't integrated, and healing means bringing consciousness to your darkest depths. This inner work isn't comfortable. It's facing childhood wounds, recognizing toxic patterns, owning behaviors you're ashamed of. But here's the liberation. When you stop running from your shadow and instead illuminate it with awareness, you reclaim the energy trapped in repression and become whole. Topic 5. The portal between worlds. The veil represents that boundary between the physical dimension and the spiritual realms, and as it thins, you gain access to information beyond the 5 senses. You're no longer limited to material reality. You're perceiving the energetic architecture underlying everything, the cosmic intelligence orchestrating synchronicities. Some people develop clairvoyance, clairaudience, or claircognizance, receiving visions, hearing guidance, or simply knowing things without logical explanation. These aren't supernatural abilities. They're natural capacities awakening once consciousness expands beyond the limiting filters society installed. Your connection with the spirit world strengthens as the veil lifts, and you might sense ancestors, spirit guides, or angelic presences supporting your journey. This isn't imagination or wishful thinking. It's your awareness tuning into frequencies that always existed but were previously imperceptible. Pay attention to signs, feathers appearing in unusual places, specific animals crossing your path repeatedly, messages coming through songs or overheard conversations. The universe speaks in symbols and synchronicities, and once you learn this language, reality becomes an interactive dialogue with cosmic intelligence. Meditation becomes the practical tool for consciously navigating between worlds, training your awareness to rest in the space between thoughts where divine connection lives. You don't need expensive retreats or gurus charging thousands. You need consistency. Sit daily, focus on breath, and watch thoughts without engaging them. Start with just 10 minutes each morning, creating a sacred space free from distraction. And notice how this practice stabilizes your consciousness amidst the awakening chaos. The mysticism that feels esoteric is actually practical. Meditation, breathwork, nature immersion, these are technologies for elevating consciousness and maintaining your connection to Source. Topic 6. Recognizing your soul's true self. Beneath the layers of conditioning, trauma, and social programming lives your true self. The eternal consciousness that existed before this body and will continue after. Most people live their entire lives never meeting this authentic essence, instead performing roles scripted by family, culture, and societal expectations. Awakening means peeling back these false identities until you discover the unchanging awareness underneath, the one watching all experience without being defined by it. This isn't finding yourself. It's recognizing what was never lost, only forgotten. Your soul carries a unique frequency, a signature vibration that attracts specific experiences, people, and opportunities aligned with your purpose. When you're living authentically, life flows with synchronistic ease. When you're betraying your truth, everything feels like swimming upstream. You'll notice that forcing outcomes from ego creates struggle, while allowing your higher self to guide creates effortless unfolding. Try this. For 1 week, make decisions based on what excites your soul rather than what your fear-based mind thinks you should do, and watch how reality rearranges itself. The journey of self-knowledge isn't a destination you reach. It's a continual deepening into the mystery of consciousness. You begin recognizing that you're not a drop in the ocean, but the entire ocean in a drop. Individual expression and universal consciousness simultaneously. This paradox becomes lived experience rather than intellectual concept when you meditate deeply enough to dissolve the boundary between observer and observed. Your personal development stops being about improving the ego and becomes about transcending it, recognizing the divine intelligence that's always been orchestrating your evolution. Topic 7. Living beyond the illusion. Once the veil lifts completely, you're functioning in the world, but no longer of it, participating in physical reality while remaining anchored in cosmic awareness. This isn't spiritual bypassing or escaping responsibility. It's bringing higher consciousness into everyday life, transforming the mundane into sacred. You still pay bills, maintain relationships, and navigate daily challenges. But you're doing so from a centered awareness that recognizes the temporary nature of all circumstances. The world continues its chaos, but you found the inner peace that exists independent of external conditions. Consciousness at this level recognizes that separation is the grand illusion. Every person, animal, plant, and particle of existence is consciousness experiencing itself from infinite perspectives. This understanding shifts how you move through reality because harming another becomes harming yourself, and serving others becomes serving the whole. You're no longer seeking enlightenment as some distant goal. You're recognizing that awareness itself is already enlightened, and what you seek is what's seeking. Read texts like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle or Be Here Now by Ram Dass to deepen this understanding of present moment consciousness. The transformation from unconscious living to awakened presence happens in the small choices, responding rather than reacting, observing thoughts rather than believing them, choosing love over fear repeatedly. Your spiritual practice becomes integrated into life rather than compartmentalized into meditation cushions and yoga mats. You're elevating your soul not through escapism, but through full engagement with existence from a place of consciousness rather than conditioning. The mysticism you once sought in books and teachers reveals itself as the living mystery unfolding in every moment. Topic 8. The calling that changes everything. This awakening you're experiencing isn't random. It's a calling from your soul demanding you step into the life you were designed to live before fear rewrote the script. The universe has been conspiring to wake you up through every challenge, every loss, every moment of divine discontent pushing you beyond comfort zones. You're being asked to become the highest expression of your consciousness, to contribute your unique frequency to the collective elevation of humanity. This isn't pressure, it's invitation. You can continue sleepwalking through existence or accept the calling to live fully awake. Your personal growth at this stage accelerates exponentially because you're no longer improving the personality. You're embodying the soul's wisdom. Spiritual development becomes less about accumulating knowledge and more about unlearning everything that blocks direct experience of reality. The spiritual portal you've accessed offers unlimited potential for healing yourself, your lineage, and through your elevated frequency, contributing to collective healing. Start a daily practice of asking your higher self, "What is mine to do today?" And then act on the guidance received, even when logic can't justify it. The calling might terrify you because it often requires releasing everything familiar, the job that pays well but kills your spirit, the relationship that's comfortable but not conscious, the identity that gained approval but suffocates authenticity. Trust that the universe doesn't awaken you to your truth and then abandon you in the transition. Every step is supported by unseen forces guiding your evolution. You're not meant to figure this out alone. Seek communities of fellow awakeners. Find teachers who've walked this path. Read wisdom from those who've integrated enlightenment into human experience. Books like Journey of Souls by Michael Newton or Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda offer maps for navigating these expanded states of consciousness. The veil has lifted, and you're standing at the threshold of a completely transformed existence. But information without application remains mere entertainment. What will you do with this knowledge that reality is far more mysterious, consciousness far more expansive, and your purpose far more significant than you've been taught? Will you retreat back into comfortable numbness, or will you commit to the daily practices that anchor this awakening into embodied wisdom? The spiritual path demands nothing less than your complete surrender to transformation. Your willingness to die to who you were so you can birth who you're becoming. Who are you beneath the masks, beyond the conditioning, stripped of every borrowed identity? What would your life look like if you trusted your soul's guidance more than society's expectations? How would you move through the world if you remembered, every single moment, that you're not a body having spiritual experiences but consciousness having a human experience? These aren't rhetorical questions. Answer them in writing. Speak them aloud. Let them disturb your comfortable patterns until change becomes inevitable. Your soul didn't orchestrate this awakening for you to remain the same person with slightly expanded perspectives. It's calling you to complete metamorphosis. Subscribe to this channel and enable notifications because your spiritual development doesn't end with one revelation. It's a continual unfolding requiring consistent guidance, ongoing support, and the wisdom of those further along the path. The universe will continue revealing deeper layers of truth, and you'll need community, teaching, and reminders to maintain elevated consciousness while navigating a world still entranced by illusion. This is just the beginning of your journey beyond the veil. And what awaits on the other side of consistent practice will exceed anything your current awareness can imagine. Are you ready to elevate your soul? Or will you let this moment of clarity fade back into the comfortable sleep most call living?